youth, and I was very strong.
You were.
Well, of course I still am. You know, you remember the photo I showed you.
I knew, Hagrid. I knew.
Welcome to On Top of the SEC, part of the On Top Network, where uniquely qualified voices from each SEC team. We get the right guys in every SEC locale, and we get the inside scoop. And tonight, our focus is on University of Florida, the On Top Spotlight. You know, for a long time, the Gators were known the Swamp, the old ball coach, Florida, the powerhouse program under Urban Meyer. But they've fallen on hard times. Now, in this video, we will focus on Florida. Now, on their recruiting, their quarterback position, and we'll talk a lot about their first-year coach, Billy Napier, also known as Sunbelt Billy. So if you're interested in the University of Florida, or whoever is on top of the SEC, stick around and get you some popcorn and let's talk about Florida. Got some unique situations. They got to have a good year, and we're going to try to get with that team and find out what Florida is right now. Next on top, welcomes a familiar eye to the SEC and Florida especially, General Beauregard. General Beauregard covers the SEC extensively. You can hear his podcast on Endless Adventure Podcast and on Spotify Podcast, as well as other major podcast sources. General, has Florida looked this bad ever? I mean, you've seen them through Spurrier and Meyer, and of course now. Is this the worst you've ever seen from Florida? Well, it's perhaps as bad as it needs to be, for sure. And Florida hopefully is on the path to recovery. What happened is water over the bridge. This team is in dire straits. If you are expecting it to compete next year, you're going to be disappointed if you want to win a national title. This team could go all kind of directions, and Billy Napier is the one who will decide. Well, not just him. Well, General, who else will decide the fate of Florida as Billy Napier enters his second year? Well, a lot of people will decide. The administrators, the fans, everybody that has a stake in the program has to have a little bit of support for their coaching staff, regardless of the circumstances. And Florida fans right now are not exactly a happy crowd. They're kind of mixed. But the fans that I've talked to that are optimistic, well, there's not as many as there ought to be. A program with the resources of Florida ought to be optimistic at all times if they're going to get things right, because they apply resources in the right direction. They've done it before. Why would Florida have to go through a long drought? But they have, and that in itself is hard to be optimistic, and things keep going wrong. So, General, going into the second year, Billy Napier, is the honeymoon over? Well, the honeymoon at Florida, if it ever exists, is very short. Florida has been performing shotgun weddings ever since Urban Meyer left, and this was done very similar. Though there is no honeymoon here. Florida expects you to win off the bat. They assume that their school and the weight it carries is good enough, and anybody should be able to win here. So it's always the coach's fault. And Billy Napier's come into a situation where it's not the coach's fault. The situation he inherited wasn't ideal. He understood what he was getting into, I presume, but the picture's getting a little bit muddier every step we take.
Ain't nobody stopping.
Well, General, the Florida roster looks like it's about to be overhauled. How exactly did their recruiting class help them? Well, the Gators needed size and athleticism with the front seven, and they did a really good job with that overall. One player should be watched for next season, however. It cannot be overstated just how important landing defensive lineman Kelby Collins was. 6'4", 260-pound defender, has a wealth of football talent. Getting him out of the state of Alabama, that was a bonus. He's from Gardensdale, Alabama high school, and could have gone with any number of local SEC programs, but instead went with the option of crossing the state lines and becoming a Gator. Collins could grow into a 3 technique or stay at defensive end, and perhaps he does both. For quarterbacks, November 11th, Florida flipped signal caller Jaden Rashada from Miami with Florida's woeful quarterback depth chart. Rashada might be forced into action sooner than later. He has a bazooka for an arm. He probably would be better served to redshirt and go through the learning curve from the sidelines like most freshman quarterbacks. The Pittsburgh, California high school standout also needs to fill out that 6'4", 175-pound frame. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if he's ready to play in 2023. If needed, he should be much more physically and mentally ready by 2024, to say the least. But, General, what do you like about this class overall? Well, the 11 defensive players signed with Florida, 5 defensive linemen and 5 defensive backs. The Gators loaded up in an area of vital need, and a job well done there. The Gators' best in-state signing is debatable, but there's a balance between the ranks. Look for cornerback and safety Deshaun Johnson of Tampa. Well, General, what about Deshaun Johnson do you like the most? Well, he's long and he's rangy, and he helps fill a need for additional athleticism in the Florida secondary. Johnson will be part of the effort to shift the tide in the right direction. There's plenty of defensive back help, honestly, so any one of the 5 could end up playing next fall. Let's see which freshman defensive backs earn that time for Gators. Now, you remember, they used to be called D-back U. Florida has never had trouble signing quality defensive backs, and they got a good haul on this one. Well, General, Billy Napier has said that he has a lot of work to do. Well, what should be number 1 on that list? Well, he's got to get this roster right. He's got to get the offensive line right. Losing transfer offensive tackle did not help. They're very likely to have to be put in a position where it's possible they'll be playing some freshman offensive line. That's not ideal. No one wants to do that, but necessity is necessity. Now, will he go to the transfer portal for some quicker fixes on the offensive line? We'll see. The transfer portal is, of course, the wild card, and there's plenty of room for some additions in that area. But as of December 27, 22 players from Florida's 2022 scholarship roster have entered the NCAA transfer portal, while 6 more have declared their intention to turn pro, now despite possessing remaining college eligibility. Gators also lost 4 seniors who ran through their college clock and dismissed a player after his early December arrest. So, of the 56 scholarship student athletes who saw the field in some capacity in at least 8 games in 2022, only 34 remain on that roster. So you take that starting point, 34 players on your pretty much your roster line, and you get a decent recruiting class. So you still got a lot of work to do. So Billy Napier certainly has said that correctly. The question is, will Florida give him time to finish this job? Now, they knew this program wasn't in top shape when they hired Billy Napier. They hired him to fix the program. The question is, will these fans tolerate probably what's going to be a tough season next year for what could be a nice foundation for a winning program? I believe in Billy Napier. I think he can get the job done. And I think Florida's going to come to the senses. I don't think they're going to be putting the pressure on Napier in next season unless it really, really gets ugly. Of course, we've seen it happen. Florida is going to have to show some improvement. It's not the ideal thing coming into year 2, but I think Florida's going to have to win 7 or 8 games to keep people happy. Now the question is, can Billy Napier cobble that together? You've been listening to On Top, where we cover the SEC like the Jew. Tonight we covered Florida, and we thank General Beauregard for his insight into that program. Next on Top, we will do the University of Auburn. We cover the entire SEC, and we'd like to have your comments and feedback. Let us know if there's things you don't like or what you'd like to hear when On Top covers your program. Thanks for joining us.